Welcome. Today we want to talk about the 7 deadly bypasses that are stunting your development. I'm the serial intellectual. I create intellectual products that transform people and change the world. Now, before we get into the 7 deadly bypasses, I want to make sure you understand what bypassing is. It is what it sounds like. It's when you use something or someone to bypass, step aside, ignore what you really need to deal with. In plain language, it's another way to not deal with your ish, whether it be emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual, mental, or even financial. So let's get into them. First, spiritual bypass. Now, this is rampant. This is when you use spiritual practices or beliefs to sidestep, ignore the things you really need to be dealing with. It comes in the form of, well, I'm just trusting the Lord on that one. Well, the Lord said this, that, and the other. Well, those things may all be true, but that does not excuse you from having to deal with what you need to actually be dealing with. Spiritual bypassing is killing us, and it's killing the church, and it's killing religion. And it's one of the main reasons why people outside of the religious institutions ain't buying it. They can see right through it. Number 2, entertainment bypass. This is when you've got a pressing issue that you really need to deal with, but you're going to binge the Netflix. You're going to get into your music. You're going to get into any form of entertainment in order to bypass having to deal with the realities that you really need to be dealing with. And America is selling you so much entertainment, it's so easy to do. Number 3, consumption bypass. Now, this is when you're either eating, drinking, or spending, aka shopping. And this is the West, so we're really good at this. And how this works is really simple. Again, you've got something you really need to be dealing with. Well, you could eat. Well, you could go out and shop. Well, you could drink that 3rd bottle of Gatorade or soda. Anything that will send the signals to your body, I'm feeling real good. This food tastes real good. This drink is real good. Number 4, relational bypass. Now, the thing about this bypass that is so bad is that it not only stunts your development, it stunts other people's development. This is basically a form of usury. In its worst ways, it's kind of like making people property, kind of like slavery, enslaving people, because now you're using relationships with people, all different types of people, whether they be family, girlfriend, boyfriend, fathers, mothers, husbands, wives, partners, doesn't matter. You're using them to sidestep the stuff that you know you need to be dealing with. That's terrible. Number 5, intoxication bypass. It is what it sounds like. It's when you smoking and drinking and drugging. And it's very effective because once you are intoxicated, you no longer feel the things you should feel. And you no longer think about the things you probably need to be thinking about. And you're no longer able to do the things that you should be doing because you're intoxicated. It's one of the most effective forms of bypassing. Then there's number 6, therapy bypass. I said it. Many of you are going to therapy and using it as a form of bypass. That's right. You go, well, wait a minute. You're going to therapy. You're supposed to be dealing with your problems. If that's true, why aren't your problems being solved? You know, I remember the first time I went to a therapist. It was many years ago. And I used to sit outside of her house and watch people leave, and they always left crying. And in my young brain, I thought, how come they going in there and they coming out the same? And so in my next session, I went in and I asked her, what should I do? And she told me to do the exact same thing that brought me in there. I was like, she crazy. And she was. You say, but you're not a therapist. Being a therapist don't mean that you're a good therapist. It just means you went and studied and got a degree. Some of you are seeing whack therapists, and some of you are seeing good therapists, but you ain't listening. And you know how I know you ain't listening? Because you always say, my therapist said, my therapist said, my therapist said, my therapist said. What are you doing with what your therapist said? Because if you're doing something, you're getting better. Some of us are seeing therapists. It's just another way to do bypass. And number 7, social media bypass. It is what it is. It's when you're binging social media as a way to numb yourself to the things that are in your life that you need to deal with. There are impending issues in your life you know you need to deal with, and that screen time little thing that pops up on your phone that tells you this week you spent this much time ain't lying. So you say, what's the solution to all this? Well, first, you need to become aware that you're actually using these 7 deadly bypasses and that they're destructive. But not just aware, but aware of how, why, and when you use them. And until you can answer those questions and you have solutions for that, you're going to keep using them. And the second thing you need to do to solve all this deadly bypassing is you need to replace bypassing with actual strategies that will get you where you want to go, that will actually solve your problems, fix the things that are wrong in your life, and get you to where you want to be. And until you do that, you're going to keep bypassing.